since my first one actually is Real Terror, I'll start with you.
Perfect placing. Go on.
Yes, it is, isn't it? I deliberately did that. So, working with your actor, Simon Starton, his character Ron, he was phenomenal, by the way. And in my opinion, I think your tension and suspense was phenomenal. Was that intentional, or was it just a coincidence, an accident with your actors working together with it?
With Simon's intensity.
Yes.
Simon must be, I don't want to age him, but he must be like a 40-year jobbing actor. That man is all over the place in regards to, he's on TV, Shakespeare. I think he's currently at the Globe doing something at the moment. So it was very pleasant as a director working with such a professional that you could sort of explain to him, like, this is the kind of feel we're after. And then a lot of discussion and trying to being, where the character is going to come from, where he was originally, and how he's, like, as a character grown into the man that we see in the film. So the intensity was always sort of ramp up that intensity to him, but he brought so much more. Like, there was hardly any takes because he was just, my boys got it right so quickly, so I was very happy.
So lines like bag of bags, that was just all him.
He was just ready.
Ready.
He was ready with
ready
bag
for
of
his
bags.
As Mike said yesterday, it's these one-liners that were just phenomenal to add in. But yeah, I'll add another one in for yourself as well. So we didn't actually get a lot of horror films, and the horror films in the industry, it's quite, they always kind of thrown under the bus, or they're not recognized a lot in the awards industry. So do you feel that the attitudes in the horror industry and the genre is kind of changing a wee bit more at the moment, or getting noticed more?
Well, I think it's bonkers that people don't look at horror films in the same way they look at drama. Because in horror, you can do so many things. You can still play in horror films that I don't think you can necessarily play as much in regular sort of cinema, I guess. You can try things out because it's a horror film. No one's going to take it seriously. And then you can do things. And then I hope that things like Substance has made people wary of, like, you can make a spectacular film that happens to be horror. It doesn't have to be, like, oh, it's horror. Well, it can't be in this section anymore. It has to be elsewhere. Because when you look at other films that were considered horror, but they're still excellent, like, it's hard to sort of be like, well, would you have put The Shining in a different place? Would you have put Hausu, like the Japanese one, in a different place? Like, they're wonderful films. They just happen to have horror elements. And also, life's got horrible elements. I mean, maybe not floating figures, but, well, maybe not in your life. But, yeah, I think horror should be looked at in the same way as every other type of film.
Definitely.
Sinner's #1 in the world right now.
And and I've got a bit of a controversial take on that. It's almost a shame they turned it into a vampire film, because if you just turned it into a period piece about two brothers coming back from Chicago and they've just, like, robbed the Italian and the Irish sort of gangs, and now they're trying to set something up at home, I would have been like, yeah, what are you doing over here? And then it turns in From Dusk Till Dawn, and it's like, no, I've got no issues with that. But what was this first half? But yeah, but yes, like, Sinners is proving that you can do exceptional things with horror. And I think actors are starting to be a bit more aware that they can have a lot more fun in horror.
Brilliant. So since Eli spoke a wee bit there, I'll jump over to you. Easy transition. So August, very, very powerful story, especially for it being a student film. What inspired you to make the film, and what did you take from actually the whole experience in general?
I think a lot of filmmakers, we take just how painful it is to give birth to something, and we shot in the middle of the pandemic. So as we were talking about yesterday, delays, pain, suffering, money, everything everyone here is super familiar with in that regard. But it came out of some really interesting places, because it's a World War II home front drama. It's about a 12-year-old boy who's shocked when German POWs show up in his tiny farming town to do agricultural labor. And then he has to wrestle with whether or not he should let his dad, who's like this classic kind of American Deep South patriarchal racist old man, know that his older sister, the English teacher, is having a relationship with one of these German POWs, and how that decision impacts his family for a generation. But that came out of it sounds terrible when we say it, but we're like, oh, we're inspired by our families, and we're upset that we were worried that maybe our family would be upset when we said that, because it's not, it's not a, it's a there's some horror elements to our story. It's a, we would call it a kind of like a historical psychological thriller, or Southern Gothic, and luckily they all really liked it, because we took a lot of pieces from a lot of different stories and we blended them together. So my wife Emily, who wrote the story, and we co-wrote the screenplay, she was inspired by her dad finding a German penny on a railroad track in their family farm in the 70s that had a swastika on it, and he was like, what is this, as a kid? But it turns out POWs had been working agricultural labor there, and so that was the impetus for her story. And then we blended a bunch of other kind of family stories. My great uncle died in the Battle of the Bulge. His picture is on the wall in their family home, the older brother who's gone to the war. I have a great aunt, Irene, who was a school teacher. Like, we threw that in there. Both of our families grew up on small farms in the Deep South, so we threw that in there. The farm we shot on for our exterior farm and house location, German POWs had worked as farm labor there. So we just took all these little pieces, kind of good and bad, from our families, and we threw them in. The young African-American boy, Rufus, in our film, he was inspired by a man an African-American man who gave my wife's family groceries to survive the Great Depression in the 1930s. And even the idea of this extrajudicial killing, this lynching that happens of the German POW, spoilers. That's why it's a horror film, right? It's in a way, or at least a dark, twisted Southern Gothic. But even that, there's family stories about, kind of lawless justice happening in response to alleged, crimes without a trial and stuff. So you got to draw on what you know, but you also, it's the struggle for a lot of us filmmakers and beginning filmmakers and student filmmakers, right? Is we start with the alarm clock, like that's our environment. You draw on what you know, but you have to figure out, what do I know that also lines up with what people are going to like? Or if you're a feature filmmaker, what people are going to buy tickets for. But for a shorts director, for a festival director, what can I draw on or combine from all the sources that I have that is going to impact people, hopefully, maybe? And, you kind of have to go with your gut, because we were talking yesterday about how professors and different people, you were like, this is unfilmable, it's not going to work, we don't like this idea, this would never happen, this is not realistic. But you have to collate that. You have to decide what's good advice, what's bad advice, and just go with your gut, and decide what you like that other people like, that's maybe gonna be impactful. And we've been blown away by the reaction. So apparently we weren't as bad off as we feared we might be.
Well, it's especially that. Martin Scorsese always says, write what you know from the heart and just go for it. If you know it's right, just do it. So that's exactly it. One more, I'll go for you actually, Eli, as well. The cast is outstanding. And was there any particular actors, though, that brought the roles and to life more than you expected and really elevated their cast?
Yeah, it's always hard with an ensemble. We don't have, we have like a main character, a couple main characters, but we have a more even amount of dialogue for more people than you would expect in most short films. And that was a difficulty, especially in casting, especially with the school COVID delays we had. We recast several roles. The original child actor we had for Rufus, he went SAG and got booked on like a major Hollywood show and everything. So we had to recast him. We were constantly recasting people and on backstage and doing all that. And it was a combination of people we were casting through backstage and wide casting call, paid roles, people we didn't know, doing auditions, and a few people we knew from the beginning we wanted, that we had worked before. One of those is Ricky Smiley, who plays Mr. Blood, and people always say, "Oh, he's such a fantastic actor. He's a wonderful actor." It's true, but he's also not acting. So he plays one character really, really well, and that's because he's from about 50 miles away from where we're filming. And he is a grizzled old Southern gentleman. He's a welder, and that's what he did for most of his life until his 60s, I think. And then he saw an ad to be an extra in a movie, and he was in a couple of the big movies we had in Georgia, and he just decided he loved it. And he would improvise a lot, talking about stuff coming out of nowhere when he says, that some bitch was in our house messing, doing, just completely making stuff up, completely like going. There's been other projects where he's said crazy stuff that didn't work, and I had to like cut it out and stuff. But when he's inspired, he's on another level. Also, Caleb Avery, who plays Rufus, he's only 8 years old. The boys are both supposed to be 12 in the story. Jacob Wagner, who plays Henry, was 15. Caleb Avery was 8. They played pretty close to each other. It didn't really, ruin the story like I was afraid it might, especially casting over Zoom and the pandemic and everything, and running out of options at the last minute when the other actor went SAG. So he was phenomenal. He was really hard on himself. He was very, very hard on himself. And with him, Jacob was confident, but Caleb was really hard on himself. So having to kind of get down there with him and tell him he's doing great, tell him it was okay to move on, was really interesting. And we knew he was going places. He has since been in a bunch of features and different things, so he seems to be going places. But we were super excited that so many people were part of it. We even had an actor, we flew out from Baltimore, Maryland, and he came out and he stayed in our hotel, and we shot his scenes. And then we deleted his scenes, so he's not even in the movie. But that stuff happens. You have to make those hard decisions. He played Rufus's dad. And there's a couple interactions with Rufus's dad, but now that'll just be saved for the feature.
I was going to say there's an extended cut then. So yeah, I'll move over to you, Lorna, since you've been sitting patiently. How did you actually start though, from being the writer? And where did the idea actually come from and start from the ground up?
So Opening Up was the first thing I wrote after I finished my MA, and all of a sudden, the training wheels are off, and it's like, oh, okay, so I don't have a deadline or anything, but I want to I did loads of writing before my MA, but then suddenly you get used to that process, and then it's like, it suddenly felt like, I was free, but there was too free, and then where do I go? But I'd written a whole load of sci-fi throughout my my MA, and I was like, well, if I want to be serious about this, I'm going to have to just try and strip it back. So the idea was to strip it back. What is it that I really like to focus on in all my stories? And all of them have got a romance in, and I was like, right, we'll try and write something that is literally just a romance. And it felt a little bit like, but can I not throw in, spaceships, time travel, all that kind of thing? And it was really, really fun to just focus in on those characters. And it started out actually as an audio story. And then I saw a competition for a 5-page script, and I thought I can take a scene out of that. So the scene that I chose originally for those 5 pages, because obviously it's a bit longer now, it was at the slamming of the door. And I thought that would be a good place to start, that was interesting, ask it, that, make the audience ask a question in terms of what's going on here. And then wrote it out, so that the whole arc of the bigger script happened in the space of those 5 pages, and we get to see why it is that Jazz is reluctant, and see her kind of slowly kind of come around to maybe that she is willing to open up to the possibility of romance. But actually the original script didn't have Ben in it. It was actually a friend she was talking to, but it was through Oz, a conversation with Oz. So we met through the competition I entered it in, and I met lots of different directors, and loads of them were saying, I really love the script, don't need to change anything. And I always feel a bit like, really? Because there's always something that you can do. But when I started talking about it, and he suggested that the friend that she's talking to is actually spoilers, the dead partner. I was like, yes, I love that idea. That's really, really good. And also, it then brought in like a fantasy element to the story, which is obviously my wheelhouse. So I was like, that's even better. And so it was through his being inspired by the story and wanting to engage with it and bring along his own changes that made me go, yes, I really want to work with you, and I'm inspired by your creativity and your thinking.
Well, the direction of that really adds more to the emotion of the situation as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were really involved with the whole production from the start as well. Some writers, you've written it, and there's the script, as you said, and then they just go and make it, and you're in the dark. What's it been like actually being so involved?
I mean, it's very kind of them, because obviously they don't have to work with a writer. They had every right to say, see ya, and do whatever they wanted with it. But Oz is so generous, and Guy, and Jet as well. And they were just so wonderful to work with. And so I was like, just use me. I'll be a spare pair of hands. Anything you want me to get done. So they gave me the job of casting. So I was there like sending out all the casting emails, learned a lot in that process, writing all these kind of wonderful long emails to all these actors that I would imagine that maybe possibly that they would be interested, and then find that they just weren't available. It's like, yeah, I spent a lot of time on that when I could have just sent an email asking for availability first. And then once I found out they were available, then I could write the big long email saying how wonderful they would be.
Definitely. I've definitely been in that situation, emailing several people. You should probably see me writing all these emails to invite films to the festival.
When it comes to having the writer on set, I always think it's the correct thing to do.
Yeah.
Like, it makes so much more sense to me, because I always think the focus of the director on the day should be performance. It shouldn't be too much. Everything should be in place, right?
Yeah.
So if then there's someone who is so on the story, and then if something's developed, if someone said something earlier in a bit of an ad lib, I want the writers to then be like, oh, what if we change this little bit at the end as a bit more of a reference to that? And it's like, thank you. Because I might have thought it if I had 5 minutes, if I had 10 minutes, but it's like, I'm not going to, because I'm too busy paying attention to everything else. So having the writer on set for us was such a useful thing. And it's going forward, I'll always have the writer on set with us.
I've seen the writer script supervisor combo work well on sets.
Yeah, that could work.
Because your writer is basically your Bible. They know the story from the start to begin, also the possibilities that could come. So that's how you can get the changes as well with the director, because they know. But yeah, I'll bring in Rachael, since you've been sitting there as well. So what have you been working on at the moment? Let's tell us a bit about yourself, being a sponsor of the festival, and why as well.
So producer, production manager, sales agent. Next Tuesday, I'm off to Cannes for our Jury of 12 production. We shot that last year. It's kind of along the same vein as 12 Angry Men, except our twist is that it's actually a real case that happened in 2005. It is a young girl that unfortunately stabbed someone 17 times. And our story is their debate in the jury room and why they came to the conclusion that they did. Following from that part of it is we're planning to do a second film following that up, because actually she ended up with a second court case 5 years later. So yeah, no spoilers, but that's pretty much what I'm up to at the minute. Off to Cannes on Tuesday.
Busy.
Yeah.
So actually, just in general yourself then, what is your sort of goals within the film industry, and what are you wanting to make are you wanting to make an impact? Like, what are you trying to do?
Oh, tough question. Goals in the industry. I mean, the company that I work for has been going 25 years. So a lot of longevity with that. So my kind of goal, I think, probably is bringing us to different genres, bringing us to different areas that the company's not been before, and building up the Scottish industry a bit more. Because primarily our company started in Scotland. Our main office is in London, but I only really brought the Scotland office back about 4 or 5 years ago. So I'm trying to, bring the Scottish side back to our company, I guess.
Brilliant.
It's my goal.
I'll actually throw this out to any of you, if you wish. Not just within this festival, but yourself when you're getting your film screened at any of the festivals you have. What do you, when you think about audience reactions, what's one thing that you want the viewers to take away from your films? Like, obviously you want them to be like, that's my favorite film, but is there something more like a lasting impression that you want?
I want them to leave the cinema thinking about something, or leave, if it's not a cinema, I want them to be thinking about something. Even if it is not the point that I think the film's about, I'd like them to be leaving thinking about something, or smiling, or having an emotional impact in some way that they remember it.
Always the thought. Even, I think I was saying to you, even if a film's bad, like if something in it made you laugh, smile, get irrationally angry, you felt something, and then it's done its job.
It's worth it for that moment.
It's worth it for that 1 second, and so that's the same. So,
and that's the easiest way to just sum up film as art as well.
Exactly.
Any emotion.
If it's done nothing to you, then I consider it a complete waste of time.
Then it's a fail.
Then it's sort of like I don't care about this.
Yeah.
And like there are films that have been big that I felt like that, because it's just like, this is just noise.
Yeah,
it's just glossy noise. It doesn't mean anything. I guess irritation then, but then it's not the same. Not the same thing.
But from the sales side, that's what sells.
Yeah.
Which is the sad thing. That is a sad thing. That is what sells.
There are some big films that kind of shoehorn a message in, and it feels
shoehorn forced.
Yeah, you can feel the fact that, like, oh yeah, we're supposed to kind of give our main characters something.
By the way,
depth. Yeah. And like, oh look, they've overcome this internal thing that they and it's just like, it feels like added on as like
kind of an afterthought. Just
exactly.
we better.
And it's not truly fully integrated into that character, and you don't really feel like you know them. So yeah, I think I want the audience to feel like they've connected with the characters in some way, and that they're, well, I mean, it depends on the genre, doesn't it? But whether they're rooting for them or screaming at them to tell them to not do whatever it is that they're about to do, and just kind of feel that I count as a win as well. Yeah.
In today's society, with so many things competing for our attention, it's nice to just know that the audience has invested the time and really paid attention to what's up there. Lots of different reactions, positive, negative, different things, you know. But the one that stands out to me, I was at a film festival in Miami. We did end up winning an award that night, but there was this rowdy bunch of teenagers in the row behind me, and they got really quiet during the second part of our film. And one of the girls behind me just said, oh, they're banging, you know, they're shagging. You're talking about the German POW and the English teacher. And just knowing that, you know, they were paying attention, they understood the plot points, that like we had an idea, we were telling a story, and someone absorbed that, and they're on board with, you know, what's happening and telling their friends about it. It's really the best feeling in the world.
I had a semi-similar kind of thing. I was in a North Carolina screening of my film, and I hadn't been up yet, so no one knew who I was. I know, shocker, they should. And I was sat behind this couple, and after the film, the girl leant into her partner and went, "Oh, that was really good." Yeah, that's it, I'm done. We can go.
Satisfied, walk out. So adding on to that one, actually, how is sharing your film at festivals like ours kind of made an impact and shapes your sort of perception of like, yeah, this is definitely the right industry for me?
It depends on the festival. It really depends on the festival, because I don't know how you guys have felt, but some festivals have been real clear money making, do not care about the.
There's a lot of festivals that are there. A hell of a lot of festivals. I mean, there's 32,000 festivals like worldwide.
And I'd say
famous.
30,000
So
are scams.
probably about 80% of them are
Yeah.
scams.
And it's painful. It's painful when you only realize when you get there that it's a scam, or they don't even have a physical event, so you'd never know. But so having a festival where there is engagement, where there is a decent crowd, or at least the people that are in, even if the crowd is small, they want to talk to you. They want to sort of do it. And I think that is through the community of the film festival. I think it's important that those things get put into play, and that things like panel discussions, talking to the people that had influence in the film, I think that gives people a bit more emotional connection to the film, where they're like, oh, this person right here, they made a film I saw yesterday in a cinema. I want to talk to them because I want to do that. And then hopefully the person they're speaking to isn't a scumbag, and they go, yeah, great. What have you got? Tell me. Let's make it, you know? So I think it's all that sort of like community thing. It's great.
Definitely.
It's not even a big or little festival thing. Some of the biggest festivals, some huge festivals, still don't have a personal touch.
Yeah.
Like, they're almost so big that they don't know who you are
Unless you're someone big, they're just like,
exactly. And you can screen your film and that's it. And you're just kind of another member of the audience. But big and little, when they take the time to do cool things for filmmakers. We were at a film festival in Macon, Georgia. They put all the filmmakers on a tour bus, showed them around the town where they had shot different films, and gave us a Southern fried breakfast. And like, really, you feel like a rock star. Yeah, exactly. And then, other times it stops the vet, or it's, suddenly it disappears from Film Freeway and you have to go get your refund. And, but stuff like this, with the personal touch Robin has and his team has here, and just every step of the way has been really nice. And of course, filmmakers love cash prizes.
I forgot. You forgot about that. Sometimes I forget
Honestly,
that.
like I forgot. I always just.
Just enjoying the experience.
This was the first festival that I was accepted at with Real Terror. So this was almost a year ago. So to me, like, I was like, oh, sick. Like, this is the first thing. I feel great. I feel great about this.
Yeah.
And then I've had a whole year of festival runs, and I did a whole, like, all of October I was in the States going to multiple different festivals. And by now, when it's sort of like, this is happening, I'm like, oh, yeah, this is happening. Yeah. And then I just knew I was coming here. We were going to be talking and all of that kind of stuff. And I had forgotten that there was like, oh yeah, there's money involved. Wouldn't it be nice if this film made a penny?
Well, that's definitely what's lacking a lot in this industry, especially the short film festival, actually, short film industry. There's no investment. Like me and Lorna earlier were talking about, Netflix could easily just distribute short films. Or
look how well those Wes Andersons did.
Well, and they have a few. They're on the verge. It feels like it's mostly Oscar nominees, mostly documentary shorts, but they've done a handful of shorts through Netflix, and some of them are really great and worth a watch.
There was something I always wanted to do, and I hope I have some ability to do it if I ever do make a feature, is that I pick my favorite short from the festivals of the year before and screen it before my feature. So everyone who sees the feature has to watch a short that they would not have watched otherwise. And it's like, yeah, because how do you think people are meant to see these shorts? Like, people can't create sort of a fan base if it's always so niche. It has to be seen by a load of people, and not all of us have got the time or energy to become YouTuber people.
Well, that's exactly how it started off with early Disney. They would have their small animations, and then it would be straight to their features.
Right.
Exactly. So bring it.
And look at Disney. They've done all right.
Yeah. Watching the credits yesterday, the American filmmakers are jealous, though. It seems like there's a lot of funding available from governments, from organizations more than we have. There's none. There's never any. So I don't know if it's hard to get or how many people have it, but it seemed like some of the films have had some support from the community and from their home countries or home governments.
Well, I'll actually tell you another reason why we did the $5,000. Actually, not long after we announced that we were doing $5,000, all funding, complete funding in Scotland for any filming was just wiped. There was no funding, and we thought, well, someone has to do something to help, not necessarily people in Scotland. Yes, we're given an opportunity for people to be submitted here and to talk to people in this industry, but it'll help someone in the world, because at the end of the day, we're all trying to create art. And now we've got a platform here, 18 phenomenal films, and we're all getting to meet each other. Like, we'll have Benjamin up later, but yourself and Benjamin lived around the corner from each other, and then you sort of like networked.
Didn't know until today. So, well, yesterday, but yeah.
So yeah, I'm actually going to throw it into the audience if anyone has any questions. Oh, one right up at the front, Duncan. Oh.
Question. It's for Elijah and the panel. In August, I watched it a couple of times, and from the word go, I had this terrible feeling of foreboding and doom that was created from the start. And I honestly, I felt this is going to be like something out of A Town Like Alice, Virginia McKenna, the legend of the crucified Australian soldier, and also the feel of Bad Day at Black Rock with Spencer Tracy. Did you take influence from any of these films?
Not from those two that you mentioned directly. I mean, obviously, there's always indirect influence. Some of our more direct influence would have been from Flannery O'Connor, the Southern Gothic writer. Her short stories do a really, as someone who's of complete Southern ancestry, and my wife complete Southern ancestry, she's someone who does a really good job of capturing how dark and how surprising and insane things can happen in the South, and we'd have those types of things documented in our family. So we wanted to get into that feeling. But I also have to shout out the amazing creative team that made all of that possible. Our composer, Abigail Western, she won the annual event at the Independent Shorts Awards for best, original score for the year. And she did a phenomenal job. And very, there's lots of little foreshadowing in that. In some of the elements of the story, our rattlesnake that we have at the beginning, like, you're put into a place of discomfort when you have a really nasty rattlesnake on the screen. And I think my wife did a phenomenal job writing the original story and co-writing the screenplay with me. There's stuff I notice in the story long after the film has been in festivals that I was like, oh, I can't remember if we did that on purpose, but it works. And one of them that I was just mentioning to my wife was they're throwing the brick, they're talking about throwing the brick at the rattlesnake. And then later he throws the brick through the window because he literally sees the German soldier as a snake. But it was a complex piece with a lot of themes, and we had a huge team that helped us execute on those themes in so many different areas: lighting, cinematography, set design, hair, makeup, all these different things. Our where is he from? He is from Serbia. Our Serbian sound designer, he was in a cinema in Belgrade doing our mix, and he did an incredible job. I thought it would be impossible. I asked him to do crowd walla for the German soldiers singing, and he recorded like 15 tracks of himself singing. And that's the German prisoners in the field singing. And then, everyone just put in double effort. Our lead actress, she's the vocals on the song on the end credits, and she's a pop musician as well. So everyone just kind of poured their creative selves into what we did. And I think that helps it make it, be really uncomfortable and really foreshadowing in the way that you mentioned.
So we'll only have a couple of questions, if that's okay. So over to Daniel now.
It's good that you've memorized every person's name.
I actually think I do. That's weird. It's a big audience.
Hello, my question's for Lorna with opening up as well. I really, really liked the opening sequence that you and your director came up with the characters' feet kind of walking in sync together. I think it very quickly and very neatly summarized the building of their relationship. And I was just wondering, like, how did you and the director collaborate to create that scene, if at all, and what was it like?
So, like I said earlier, that the script started originally at the slamming of the door. And so Oz was very much like, we need to get a sense of their relationship beforehand so that we're rooting for them. And so he was very much like talking through with me exactly how we could do that. And I was like, can we not see their faces? Can we just slowly kind of gradually, because originally the script had them climbing up the 12 flights of stairs, but the police arrived and said that we weren't allowed to use communal areas. So we quickly regrouped, and it ended up being so much better as a result. And, you know, the cinematography of those early scenes is obviously so beautiful, and how you gradually see them going from the leafier streets to the, less appreciated streets of London. And
I know. I could tell by where that was. That East London, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it Mile End area?
It was, I don't know London very well. I was there, but it was, what's it called? I'll have to tell you after. It's gone out of my head. So it was through those so there was a certain amount of like accidental kind of involvement in that, but yeah, it was Oz and I having that discussion. And so and we actually, in terms of the things that they talked about, we told them to ad lib, because I really like collaborating with people, and they were so pleased to be able to get the chance to ad lib those moments. And so I love the kind of Karate Kid reference and stuff that they got shoved in there. It's brilliant. And yeah, but it was through those conversations. So it was definitely between Oz and I, in terms of working it. And Oz was like, that's, you know, when I said about could we not see their faces, he was like, it'd be so good to focus on their feet, but also partly because, you know, it hides their age. And so then, because so often romance is done between people in their 20s, and, you know, as you get older, it's almost like, you know, you disappear, particularly when it comes to romantic stories. And so he got really like fired up by the idea that it's not until that like they kiss that you then see that they're that bit older. I mean, some people would recognize Gary's voice and Tamsin's voice, so there's an element of that, but so some people might be spoiled by the fact that they're a bit older. But yeah, so it's very much about kind of teasing people a little with who they are, and getting a sense of who they are through the feet, because I think feet can be really expressive. And you know, we both thought it was a really interesting way to kind of introduce the characters.
When the camera started panning up, I actually was like, oh no. No, I don't need their faces. The feet are doing everything I need.
We've got another Tarantino here. And he missed that too.
Anyway, next question.
So we'll go for one last question if anyone's got one. No? Okay. So actually we'll just go for a 15-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll have our other half of the panel. So we'll be back here for 3:20. No worries. Thank you very much, guys, for joining me.